Stagecoach was not just a film that saved the Western, it was a chaotic 9-day war that almost killed its star and defined a tyrant director's legacy. What audiences saw as a grand, heroic adventure was actually the product of a director's psychological warfare, an actress's contract battle, and a desperate gamble on a B movie actor who could not get a job. Behind the scenes of this cinematic cornerstone, a different kind of fight for survival erupted, one with a sadistic director playing God, stunts that were genuinely life-threatening, and a character so based on a real-life gossip queen the studio feared ruinous retribution. These are not just production notes, they are the battle scars from the making of the film that launched 1,000 myths. Today, we are riding shotgun into the truth with 20 weird facts about Stagecoach. And stay tuned to the end for a bonus fact about the film's iconic costumes that is so shocking. It will change how you see every single character. Hit that subscribe button and let's uncover the brutal secrets of the Western that started it all. Number 20. John Ford ran the set like a sadistic drill sergeant. John Ford was not just a brilliant director, he was a notorious tyrant who ruled his set with psychological cruelty. On Stagecoach, his sadism was at its peak. What audiences did not know was that Ford deliberately pitted his actors against each other, creating a real-life pressure cooker to fuel their performances. He was not just directing, he was conducting a social experiment. He would praise one actor to their face and then ridicule them behind their back to another, sowing seeds of distrust and insecurity. It was not just motivation, it was emotional sabotage. The most infamous target was Thomas Mitchell, who played the drunken doc. Ford would constantly mock his acting, forcing him to do take after take until he was a nervous wreck. This tension, however, is what Mitchell channeled into his Oscar-winning performance. Ford was not just making a movie, he was breaking men down to build them back up into the characters he wanted, a process that was as brutal as it was effective. Number 19. The Stagecoach plunge stunt was nearly fatal to the stuntman. The film's most spectacular action sequence, the Stagecoach plunging into the river, was not just movie magic, it was a life-threatening disaster that became a near-death experience for its star. The entire stunt went horribly, catastrophically wrong. What audiences did not know was that the horse, spooked by the gunfire and explosions, was supposed to bolt at the exact moment the rope was pulled, yanking the stuntman to safety. But the animal was a fraction of a second too late. It was not just a close call, it was a genuine execution. The rope tightened, the noose bit deep, and legendary stuntman Yakima Canutt was left dangling. The noose tightening for real. The crew scrambled to cut him down, and by the time they got him free, he was turning blue. He later said he could feel his life slipping away. This was not just a dangerous stunt, it was a moment of absolute terror that was left in the final cut. The panic you see on the faces of the passengers is not acting. It is the raw, authentic fear of men who just witnessed a man almost die for the sake of an opening shot. Number 18. Claire Trevor fought for John Wayne's career and her own paycheck. Claire Trevor was not just the film's female lead. She was its biggest star and the political force that got John Wayne cast. But she also fought a brutal battle for her own worth. What audiences did not know was that when Trevor signed on, she was paid significantly more than any male actor, including Wayne. She then used her leverage to demand a better deal for Wayne, arguing that his performance was crucial to the film's success. It was not just a suggestion, it was a contract negotiation. She also fought for more money for herself, threatening to walk off the picture when the low-budget producers balked. This was not just star behavior, it was a hard-won battle for respect in a sexist system. Trevor, a seasoned professional, knew her value and was not afraid to burn the whole thing down to get it. Her off-screen fight for her co-star and for herself was as important as her on-screen performance, making her the unsung hero of the entire production. Number 17, John Wayne, was not the first choice, he was a desperate gamble. The role of the Ringo Kid is the role that made John Wayne a star, but he was not just a first choice. He was a last-ditch gamble that no one wanted. What audiences did not know was that producer Walter Wanger and director John Ford had offered the part to bigger names like Gary Cooper and Joel McCrea, all of whom turned it down. They saw it as just another low-budget Western. It was not just a rejection, it was a snub. Ford, who had a paternal yet complex relationship with Wayne, essentially gave him the part out of pity and a desire to prove his protege could carry a film. Wayne, who was languishing in B movies and had just failed a screen test at another studio, was so desperate he accepted a paltry salary. This was not just a casting choice, it was a career Hail Mary. The fact that this desperate gamble on a struggling actor created one of cinema's most iconic heroes is one of Hollywood's greatest and most unlikely success stories. Number 16. The gossip columnist character was a direct attack on a real-life tyrant. The character of Lucy Mallory, the haughty Southern lady played by Louise Platt, is a minor role, but the character of the gossip columnist, named Samuel Peacock, in the script, was a direct and risky satire of the most powerful woman in Hollywood, Luella Parsons. What audiences did not know was that Parsons, the Hearst gossip queen, could make or break careers with a single column. Ford and Wanger were taking a massive risk by including a character who was clearly a parody of her. It was not just a character, it was a dare. They feared Parsons would see the film, recognize the caricature, and destroy them all in her column. This was not just a subplot, it was an act of professional suicide. In the final cut, they softened the character and reduced her role, but the intention was there, a brave middle finger to the woman who held Hollywood's reputation in her hands. Number 15. Monument Valley was a hellish, uncharted location shoot. Stagecoach is famous for its breathtaking Monument Valley locations, but shooting there in 1939 was not just a scenic choice, it was a brutal, pioneering expedition into the wilderness. What audiences did not know was that Ford was the first director ever to shoot there. There were no roads, no facilities, no water, and no electricity. The cast and crew had to be trucked in over treacherous terrain and camp out in the harsh desert. It was not just a location shoot, it was a survival mission. The heat was blistering, and the sudden, violent thunderstorms turned the dry washes into raging rivers, nearly sweeping away the equipment. The crew lived in tents and ate canned food for weeks. This was not just filmmaking, it was a rugged, unpleasant adventure that tested everyone's endurance. Ford's obsession with authenticity forced his entire company to endure a level of hardship that was almost as punishing as the journey of the characters they were portraying. Number 14. The film was banned by the National Legion of Decency. Today, Stagecoach seems tame, but in 1939, its morality was so controversial it was officially condemned. What audiences did not know was that the National Legion of Decency, a powerful Catholic censorship group, banned the film for its immoral characters. It was not just a bad review, it was a public condemnation. The Legion objected to the fact that the film's most noble characters were a prostitute, Dallas, and a drunkard, Doc, and that it treated them with sympathy. This was not just a critique, it was a call for a boycott. The ban, however, backfired spectacularly. The controversy created a forbidden fruit allure that made audiences even more curious to see what all the fuss was about. The Legion's attempt to kill the film only made it a bigger hit, proving that there is no such thing as bad publicity. Number 13. United Artists hated the film and tried to kill it. The studio that released Stagecoach, United Artists, did not just have doubts about the film, they actively loathed it and thought it would be a disaster. What audiences did not know was that when the executives at United Artists saw Ford's final cut, they were horrified. They thought it was too dark, too cynical, and too slow. It was not just a creative disagreement, it was a complete rejection of the film's vision. The studio pleaded with Ford to trim it by at least an hour, arguing that no audience would sit through it. Ford, in his typical fashion, refused. This was not just a negotiation, it was a battle for the film's soul. The fact that United Artists, a company built by artists, could not see the genius they had is a stark reminder that even the most revered classics were once considered failures by the very people who made them. Number 12. A real baby was used during the dangerous attack scenes. The film features a baby, the child of the pregnant officer's wife, who was on the coach during the Apache attack. For the close-up shots, a real baby was used, not a doll. What audiences did not know was that this was a terrifying and ethically complex choice for authenticity. The mother, played by Virginia Vale, held the infant during the filming of the chaotic attack scenes, which involved loud gunshots, stuntmen falling, and a great deal of controlled chaos. It was not just a prop, it was a real human being. The most shocking part, The baby was not a professional actor, but the child of a local rancher paid a few dollars for the day. This level of risk is horrifying by today's standards. The use of a real infant in the middle of a simulated battle is a moment of pure cinematic exploitation that yielded undeniably powerful art. This was not just a detail. It was a shocking and irresponsible choice that highlights the era's shocking and often callous approach to on-set safety. Number 11. The film's technical innovations were revolutionary. Go ahead and like and subscribe because the next 10 facts reveal how this simple Western was secretly a technical marvel that changed filmmaking forever. And it all starts with the camera. Stagecoach was not just a story, it was a masterclass in cinematic innovation. What audiences did not know was that cinematographer Burt Glennon employed revolutionary techniques that are now standard. To film the moving stagecoach, the crew mounted a camera to a rubber-tired car that ran alongside it on a parallel road, creating a fluidity of movement that was unheard of. They also used deep focus photography to keep all the characters inside and out of the coach in sharp focus simultaneously. It was not just a good-looking movie, it was a technical how-to guide. These innovations, born from Ford's demand for realism, created a visceral, immersive experience that made the audience feel like they were on the coach with the characters. This was not just a Western, it was a blueprint for action cinema. Number 10, Ford's direction to Wayne, do not do so damned much acting. John Ford's most famous and most telling piece of direction to John Wayne was a command to do less. What audiences did not know was that Ford, frustrated with Wayne's B-movie histrionics, pulled him aside and gave him a note that would define his entire career. It was not just a suggestion, it was a complete reprogramming. Ford told Wayne, do not do so damned much acting. Talk low, talk slow, and do not talk too much. This was not just a tip. It was an order to stop being an actor and start being a presence. Wayne, who idolized Ford, took this advice to heart. The iconic minimalist John Wayne persona, the slow walk, the squint, the laconic speech was born in that moment. Not from Wayne's own instincts, but from Ford's ruthless editing of his performance. This was not just a role, it was the creation of a legend. Number 9. Thomas Mitchell's Oscar was a historic first for the genre. Thomas Mitchell's win for Best Supporting Actor was not just a personal triumph, it was a historic first for the entire Western genre. What audiences did not know was that before 1939, the Academy had completely ignored Westerns, considering them lowbrow entertainment unworthy of awards. Mitchell's nuanced, heartbreaking performance as Doc Boone was the first time an actor was recognized for a role in a Western. It was not just an award, it was a watershed moment. This win legitimized the entire genre, proving that a Western could contain performances of profound depth and complexity. It opened the door for future Westerns and their actors to be taken seriously by the establishment. Mitchell's Oscar was not just a gold statue, it was a key that unlocked a new level of respect and artistic credibility for the Western. Number 8. The film's score was assembled from stock music. The iconic score for Stagecoach, which feels so perfectly tailored to the action, was not entirely original. What audiences did not know was that due to the film's tight budget, composers Gerard Carbonara and Louis Forbes supplemented their original compositions with pieces from the studio's music library. It was not just a cost-saving measure, it was a brilliant act of musical collage. They repurposed dramatic cues from earlier films, including some from the public domain, to create a rich and varied soundscape. This was not just a shortcut, it was an innovative solution that resulted in a score that feels both classic and epic. The fact that one of cinema's most recognizable scores is a musical quilt is a testament to the creativity born from necessity. Number 7. The film's success had a real-world impact on the Navajo Nation. Stagecoach's use of Monument Valley did not just create a beautiful backdrop, it had a profound, lasting impact on the Navajo Nation. What audiences did not know was that the film's massive success turned the remote Navajo tribal park into a world-famous tourist destination. Before the film, the area was virtually unknown. After it, it became an iconic symbol of the American West. This was not just a location, it was an economic engine. The tourism generated by the film and the countless westerns that followed it brought a new and sometimes complicated source of income to the Navajo people. Ford's artistic choice had a real-world, cultural, and economic consequence that is still felt today. The film did not just create a myth, it created a tourist industry. Number 6. The film invented the Rashomon-style ensemble decades earlier. Film. Scholars often point to Kurosawa's Rashomon 1950 as the inventor of the ensemble film where each character gets their own story and perspective. But Stagecoach did it over a decade earlier. What audiences did not know was that the film's structure, which gives a distinct backstory and mini arc to each of the coach's passengers, was revolutionary. It was not just a plot, it was a narrative innovation. Ford takes a group of disparate social archetypes, the prostitute, the drunk, the gambler, the southern lady, the banker, and peels back their layers to reveal their shared humanity. This was not just a character study, it was a blueprint for the modern ensemble film. The film's influence on how to tell a story with multiple, equally weighted characters is immense and often overlooked. Number 5. The final shot is a direct homage to a famous painting. The film's iconic final shot, where John Wayne's Ringo Kid and Claire Trevor's Dallas ride off together into the vast landscape, is not just a happy ending. It was a direct, deliberate, visual homage to the 19th century painting, The Song of the Lark by Jules Breton. What audiences did not know was that Ford, a lover of art and history, consciously composed the shot to mirror the painting's image of a couple walking toward a hopeful horizon. It was not just a coincidence, it was a visual quotation. This elevates the ending from a simple, happily ever after to a mythic, timeless image of new beginnings. Ford was not just filming a scene, he was capturing a piece of American mythology, linking his cinematic West to the artistic traditions of the Old World. Number 4. John Ford has a secret uncredited cameo. Directors often insert themselves into their films, but Ford's cameo in Stagecoach is so quick and specific it is almost impossible to spot. What audiences did not know was that Ford appears as a man waving farewell to the stagecoach as it leaves Tonto. It is not just a fun fact, it is a symbolic gesture. Ford, the architect of the modern Western, is literally sending his creation off into the world. The cameo is his personal blessing on the film and the genre it would revitalize. This is not just an Easter egg, it is the creator of record signing his work. A quiet, personal moment in a film filled with epic action. You have to know exactly where to look and what to look for, but the director of record is there, a ghost in his own machine. Number 3. The film created the John Wayne persona out of desperation. The John Wayne, we know the slow-talking, straight-shooting, stoic American hero did not exist before Stagecoach. What audiences did not know was that this persona was a complete fabrication, a carefully constructed character, built by Ford and Wayne from the ground up. Wayne's previous roles were as a generic, smiling B-movie lead. It was not just a performance, it was an invention. Ford saw something in Wayne, his height, his walk, his voice, and stripped away all the softness. All the smiling, all the generic acting. He replaced it with a quiet intensity, a moral code, and a simmering violence that would define his entire career. This was not just a star-making role. It was the birth of an archetype. The character of the Ringo Kid was so powerful and so perfectly aligned with America's self-image that it became Wayne's permanent identity, both on and off screen. Number 2, the film's success led directly to Ford and Wayne's epic collaboration. The partnership of John Ford and John Wayne is the most legendary in film history, but it only happened because Stagecoach was a smash hit. What audiences did not know was that the film's success gave Ford the clout to demand Wayne for his future projects, and it gave Wayne the star power to be a viable leading man. This was not just a happy outcome, it was a direct consequence. Without Stagecoach's triumph, there is no The Searchers, no The Quiet Man, no The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. The film was the key that unlocked the most prolific and influential director-actor collaboration in history. It was not just a movie, it was the foundation of a dynasty. The legacy of Stagecoach is not just its own quality, but the incredible body of work it directly enabled. Number 1, the film's ultimate legacy. It saved the Western genre. The single most important fact about Stagecoach is that it single-handedly rescued the Western genre from the B-movie ghetto. Before 1939, Westerns were cheap, formulaic, and considered kids' stuff. What audiences did not know was that the genre was dying, a relic of the silent era. Stagecoach proved that a Western could be a serious art form, capable of exploring complex themes of prejudice, hypocrisy, and redemption. It was not just a great movie, it was a genre's savior. Every great Western that followed from High Noon to Unforgiven owes its existence to the door that Stagecoach kicked open. The film's ultimate legacy is its profound duality. It is both a myth of the American West and a film that exposes the ugly truths of that very myth. Bonus fact, the iconic costumes were an accidental mix of pieces. The iconic look of the characters in Stagecoach, their perfectly fitted clothes, their distinct silhouettes was not the result of a grand, unified design. It was a chaotic, last-minute scramble born from a low budget. What audiences did not know was that the costume department, led by the legendary Walter Plunkett, did not have the time or money to create costumes from scratch. Instead, they pulled from the studio's general stock, mixing and matching pieces from different films and different eras. John Wayne's iconic outfit, for example, was assembled from various parts, including a shirt from one film and pants from another. It was not just a costume, it was a uniform. This single piece of clothing became the most iconic garment in Western history, symbolizing the rugged, practical, and mysterious nature of his character. It was not just a fashion choice, it was an accidental masterpiece of costume design, born from an actor's personal taste that would define a generation of cinematic style. Stagecoach stands today not just as a great Western, but as a brutalist masterpiece, a work of art born from chaos, conflict, and desperation. What we see on screen is a perfectly crafted, elegant narrative, but behind it is a story of a director's tyranny, a star's last chance, and a production that fought against its own studio at every turn. The film's legacy is its profound duality. It is both a myth of the American West and an anti-myth that exposes the hypocrisy and prejudice of the society it celebrates. It redefined the cinematic hero, showing us that a man can be both a killer and a figure of moral code. It created a new kind of star in John Wayne and a new kind of filmmaking in its technical innovations. The next time you watch Stagecoach, remember the tyrant director, the terrified star, and the costumes pulled from a scrap heap. Remember that you are watching not just a story about a journey, but the story of a journey that against all odds managed to save an entire genre. Because in the movies, as in the West, sometimes the most important destination is the one you have to fight to create. Hit that notification bell and join us as we continue to explore the films that define us. Because some stories are not just told, they are fought over.